But when you are aware through the Son that you are God the Father, then you are set free. For if the Son sets you free, you are free indeed. Now he said, I will be with you a little longer, and then I go to him who sent me. Yet he who sent me has never left me. He and I are one. Oh, do show us, oh Lord, show us the Father. I have been so long with you, and yet you do not know me, Philip. He who has seen me has seen the Father. If you see me. But then who are you who is speaking? At one moment, if you read Scripture properly, he is speaking in the capacity of the Son, therefore David is speaking. At another moment, he is speaking in the capacity of Father, and therefore it is the invisible Spirit speaking. But no one has ever seen him. Who can say he has seen him? Until you see him in spirit, you can't see him here. All these are masks. So what on earth could ever look like him? No. You will know exactly who you are when you see David. Because the Father and the Son are one. And you will actually see in David what you, matured, must be. And then I know it's the same face into whose body I was incorporated, for he is the image, matured image of David. And so when he embraced me, and we became one body, one spirit, and then I was sent into the world. From that moment on, though I still looked like Neville, the Neville that was before, and still look like that Neville now, it is that being into whose body I was incorporated, and with whose spirit I became one, that David recognized and called me Father. For he who is united to the Lord becomes one spirit with him. And so there's only one being resurrecting. So the resurrection is not over, it is taking place. And so he said to Timothy, there are those who preach the resurrection is past. They are misleading people and turning them from the faith. As he came into his letter to Timothy, because he said, the time for my departure has come. I have finished the good work. Well, now he must tell Timothy not to fall into that trap and teach that the resurrection is over. It has begun, but it is taking place in everyone and must take place in everyone. So the Christ of whom he spoke is that universal Christ that is buried in everyone. And in everyone, but individually, he must rise. And the same pattern foretold in Scripture by which he rose must take place in man. He came out of one place where he was buried, and there's only one place, and it is named skull. Luke does not minimize the word, neither does John. Even though he will give you the word Golgotha, he'll translate the word Golgotha. Golgotha means skull in Hebrew. But in some translations, they don't even give you the Hebrew word. They say, and he was crucified and buried on Golgotha. So there's only one place you're ever going to rise. And you aren't going to rise in Forest Lawn. You're going to rise out of your own wonderful skull while you're walking the earth. That's where you're going to rise. Save your money if you're planning any little plot to bury the little body, for you aren't going to rise there. In fact, you will never be taken there. Let them destroy this body, let them turn it into ash. It means nothing. You will still be in that immortal skull where you were buried in the beginning. And from that skull, you're going to rise. And all the imagery of Scripture will surround you when you rise. And then will come this wonderful unfolding pattern, for there's only one pattern, that must repeat itself through the indwelling in man of Jesus Christ. Were he not in us, then he could not repeat the drama. But the same thing is told in the gospel. That same drama unfolds itself in the individual. And he is the Lord who is the Father of the only Son, and that Son is David. So when you read the story, if you have a concordance, and I recommend if you don't have one, and you plan ever to get one, the best that I know of is Strong's Concordance. It's exhaustive. It has every word. Don't buy the metaphysical concordance and not the metaphysical dictionary and these things. That's all, well, speculation. This is simply the original town translated in the original meanings of the word used when it was first put into the scroll. Now you can take from this many definitions. For instance, we took tonight the word see. Well, one definition given in concordance, in Strong's Concordance, is to show self, to experience. Well, to experience, David, is to see. But you must experience it. Not hearsay, it must be an experience. So that is to see. And so he who sees the Son then knows the Father. If you knew me, you would have known my Father. And yet I and my Father are one. So to experience, David, is to know God. And you know God as the Father of the one that you are now looking at. And the one looking at him is yourself. And you feel that father-son relationship. Now that is completely in conflict with the whole vast Christian world concerning the story of Jesus Christ. And yet I've been sent to tell it. Tell it not as hearsay, but tell it as experience. And so I share it with you. And not eternity could ever deny it. Because you're going to have it just as I have told you. You're not going to bury it at all, because there's only one pattern, and that pattern will unfold within you. And when it unfolds within you, you will depart this world that is a police state. And maybe I will still be there, giving these sumptuous dinner parties, not more than 8. And 8 is the number of resurrection. There were 6 guests, and 6 is the number of man. And 8 is the number of resurrection. So the 6, which is man, now will be set free. So here this sumptuous, wonderful dinner. And not one can fail, because as I am telling them the way of escape, they were at that very moment already at their destination. So not one who came to search the house could ever find one of my guests. And as they came, the butler announced the officers are here, and out my guests would go behind the tapestries and the panel wall into their quarters. And then that very night, always the night of the banquet, they escaped. And that was the vision. So I tell you, it's a true vision. You bring it back, and you know, and she said, strangely enough, I knew them and I was there in the vision. But on waking, you were the only one that I really knew. The others were there for a purpose, and you were playing a part that came from above. For the whole thing was organized and dictated and controlled from above. And there you sat and explained the procedure of departure. And yet, as you told them, they were already at their destination. So no one could have found them anyway. But they went through the means of searching the house. And they came several times in the interval, but always at the end of a banquet, then got guests. There were always 6. They left. And they were set free from this police state. Or this whole vast world, whether it's behind the Iron Curtain or outside of the Iron Curtain, we are still in a police state. The whole thing. And it's an escape from this world, this age, into that age, where I played the part of the gateway, explaining how it's done. Well, I'm explaining it now to you, how it's done. You are here dreaming the dream of life. And the day will come, and come suddenly. You will have adumbrations, like my friend, with the world coming to an end, and the whole thing is taking place around him. You will have an adumbration like that, or something similar. But the actual thing, when it does happen, will take place all within your skull. And a vibration that you think, or you will interpret it to be final. You wonder how you could ever survive what is taking place now. And then, instead of dying, you awake for the first time that you can ever remember, a true awakening. And you awake to find that you really are in Golgotha. And that's where you are. And then you know at that moment what is taking place. And you come right out to find the wise ones present. And they find the infant child, just as you're told. And as Scripture tells you, but people skip over the word sign. And this shall be a sign unto you. But you go to church this coming Christmas, and they'll have the little sign, but they don't call it a sign. They call that the fact. And people will bow before the little child. The child is only the sign of your redemption. You were the one who awoke. You were the one who were born from above. And you are the one of whom the evangelist wrote. That Christ in you is the one of whom they speak. And the whole thing is told there, you experience, and the whole story is your story. But as you read it, and as it's interpreted by those who talk from the pulpit, you will never know it. And they wonder why they're still so confused today. It will go on and on and on until actually man comes to the truth of it all. And he comes to it from within himself. So to go back, if you have the concordance, don't take anything for granted. Just simply turn to the word, look it up. You need not know one word of Greek or one word of Hebrew. It gives you a number. You look up the number. If it is in the Old Testament, you look up the section under the Old Testament for definition. If it is in the New, you turn to the Greek, and you look it up under the Greek. And it takes the number. It will show you the Greek word and the pronunciation of the word. But you need not bother with that. Look up the number, then take the definition as given you, not in Greek. It defines it in your own tongue, in English. And you will see how many definitions of the one simple word are there, and why they chose the one that they did. So, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And the pure in heart is simply the consequence, not the condition for seeing God. Seeing God produces automatically, instantly, the pure heart, which is nothing more than the purging of the mind of all beliefs in secondary causes, clearing the mind of all obstructions, leaving you completely alone, that God is all that there is, and all is God. Now let us go into the silence. Another friend who was here tonight, she said she heard a voice, didn't see anyone, saw nothing, just the voice. The voice said to her, you will be called and sent, and you will not return. You will be sent into, well, that's scripture. You will be sent while you're here. You have a long time here. But you will not return, not only here, but return to this age, whether it's beyond the so-called grave or not. You will not return to this world, terrestrial world. But you'll be saints and pairs, well, you're told that in Scripture. And they came back, the 70, but they're all sent out in twos.